All right, hey guys. Logan LDG here. I saw the big trend going around on League Twitter right now with all the different analysts and personalities is World's tier list. We've gotten to that part of the year. It's one of my favorite parts. I love seeing what everybody else thinks about the teams and regions and how they stack up and then arguing about it. It's a ton of fun. So I figured I would make my own list, even though nobody asked for it. I'm going to throw my opinion out there into the void. And who knows, maybe 2 months from now, we're going to look back at my list and say, wow, Logan LDG is the greatest analyst of all time, or wow, this guy is such a clown. Either way, it's going to be immortalized here in video format for you to look at. I'll also just be giving like basic overviews and stuff, like not super in-depth analysis, just kind of basics touching on it. So it'll kind of be like a primer if you don't know much about these teams or haven't been following a lot of the regions. It'll give you a bit of an idea of what you should be expecting going into the 2021 World Championship. If you would like to see more in-depth content, either maybe going team by team, looking on some strengths and weaknesses, or a player ranking, like a top 20 worlds player ranking, like Riot has done in the past. If you would like to see that content, let me know down below in the comments, and I could definitely put that out in the near future. It's content that I would be interested in making, so if you're interested in watching, make sure to let me know. Disclaimer for how much I watch each region, just so you know where my expertise kind of lies in the matter. I watch probably 90 to 95% of the LCS games. I watch 75% of the LEC games, and I watched all the playoff matches. I watch probably 35% of the LCK games and most of the playoff matches. And I watched about 25% of the LPL games and most of the playoff matches. And all of them, once we got to like the top 4 to 5 on, I watched all the recap videos, highlights, whatever you would like to call them, to kind of keep up. I don't watch any of the wild card regions consistently, except for NA, of course. So that's kind of my disclaimer on where I might have knowledge and where I don't. This list is mostly going to be based on historical trends. It'll definitely be taken into account how teams looked in summer regular season and summer playoffs for the various leagues. But most of it is going to be based on historical trends and how we've seen teams from regions perform in the past couple of years. I think that will probably generally give us more accurate reads. So that's kind of how I'm going into this and how I'm going to be doing it. Without further ado, we can get started. First things first, I'm going to go S to F and then maybe jump around and make adjustments as I might change my mind. First team I'm going to put in S plus tier. Oh, and last thing, these will be ranked within tiers. The further left they are, the better. So like the first team in S tier will be better than the second team and so forth. I think the best team, highest ranked right now in the world, I think most people agree with this, is probably FPX. The only reason this is even controversial at all right now is after they just lost the LPL finals to EDG. But from what I've seen, most people seem to have more faith in FPX than EDG when it comes to international performance. So I put FPX up there. They won Worlds a couple of years ago. Doinby is looking like maybe the best player in the world right now. He definitely has a very strong claim for it. They're just generally strong all across the map. Their roster doesn't really have a glaring weakness. And up until the finals versus EDG, they were the consensus number one team in the world, basically. So that's why I have them up here in S plus. The other teams that I'm going to be putting in S plus are going to be EDG and Damwon. EDG is second best team in China at worst, and you could obviously make the argument that they are the best team in China as they just beat FPX in the finals. That finals performance was extremely high level of performance. My concern is I'm not sure if it will translate to Worlds. It might not make a lot of sense because this is basically an entirely new roster, but EDG does have a history of dominating China domestically and then not showing it at Worlds and underperforming, choking, if you would. especially those Name rosters back in 2015 and so forth. So I'm always hesitant to rank them there, but for now I have them there. And then the other team is Damwon Kia, the reigning world champs. They still look good. They've been dominating Korea. They're definitely a strong contender. I think these three teams, any of them can beat the other on any given day. It's just who shows up. I might actually put Damwon ahead of EDG, like this. Maybe it goes FPX, Damwon, EDG. But all three of these teams are very close. The gap between these three and S Plus is not very large at all. It's very close, in my opinion. First team I would put in S tier is actually going to be Mad Lions. I think I'm higher on Mad Lions than almost any analyst I've seen releasing these tier lists. I think Mad Lions in their finals versus Fnatic and the playoffs in general looked very, very strong. Basically every aspect of the game, their team fighting, their macro, their decision making, all across their laning, I think it's strong. I think Mad Lions' biggest danger is going to be getting out of groups, if they can get out of groups or not, because they do tend to be weaker in a best of one scenario. But once you get to best of 5, I don't think there's a single team in the world that is going to feel confident if they draw Mad Lions. Mad Lions in a best of 5 is not going to be an easy out. It will not be a simple task to win 3 games against the Mad Lions in a series. Even these S plus teams, any of these matchups into Mad Lions, I would probably favor them. That's why they're in the higher tier. I think they're maybe more consistent, especially most of these teams, their early games are probably a little bit cleaner than Mad Lions, which I think is what's separating them from truly being a top tier contender, is cleaning up some of that early game laning, which is where they might have their weakness, even though it's still better than most other teams in the world. So I think Mad Lions is very, very strong contender. I think they are going to be a very strong team. They're the number 1 team in Europe. Europe has performed historically the past couple of years very well. Some people argue that is just G2 carrying the region. But when you look at European teams in the top 8, Europe has consistently had 2 or 3 of their teams in top 8 for years. So to me, it doesn't make any sense to put Mad Lions lower than S tier. Next team I put right behind them, probably RNG. RNG was dominating China in spring, has looked really strong. They went to MSI finals. I don't remember if they won or lost to Damwon. They won. They beat Damwon at MSI finals. Yes, because that is why Ghost eventually and Barrow came under so much flack, was because they were getting gapped by RNG's bot lane. But RNG fell off on the later half of summer, which is why they are not an S plus team. If this list was made like halfway through summer before that, RNG and EDG would be swapped here. But EDG finished much stronger than RNG. So that's why RNG dropped down to S tier, but they are obviously still a very strong contender. They're very strong around the map. Their bot lane, Gala and Ming, are insanely skilled. So it just makes sense here to put them in S. If they found their form again from spring, they could easily hop up into S plus tier and be a strong contender. The last team I think that I would put in S tier is probably SKT. And this one, SKT is a team I've seen people have a lot all over the place. I've seen people put them S plus all the way down to B. I think SKT does get overrated in a sense because they have Faker and the name brand legacy is very strong. But if you look at SKT's performance in Summer Split and playoffs, there's obviously a clear gap between T1 and Damwon. LCK right now for the past 2 years and still currently has been Damwon and then everybody else. So while T1 isn't a weak team by any means, they're not a favorite for Worlds at all. They're going to be a strong team, and I'd be very surprised if they don't make it out of groups. But if they get a good bracket draw, they could make semis. I think that's the cap. That's the ceiling for this SKT team, or this T1 team, I guess, since their rebrand. I don't see them making it further than semis. I would be extremely surprised. But that's probably the last team I have in S tier. And now we get into A tier, where it gets a bit more complicated. The teams that I would put in A tier in some combination would probably be Fnatic, Genji, and LNG. Now, how I would order them, I'm not entirely sure. I think I put Fnatic over Genji here. Because I think Fnatic's playstyle is much better suited for Worlds than Genji. Genji plays a much more slower, controlled, relaxed, scaling focus. They're not very proactive. And Fnatic is the polar opposite stylistically. They are skirmish heavy. They're going to be looking for fights, to push their leads, to take maybe risky plays, you would say. And I think that style we've seen works much better internationally than the slow play style. We've consistently seen teams that play slower underperform at Worlds. Like talking earlier with the EDG with Name rosters. Those were slower teams and they underperformed internationally consistently. Same with the TSM rosters in 2016 and 2017 that dominated North America with that slower style of play but couldn't show it at Worlds. So I'm going to give the edge to Fnatic there and put them slightly ahead of Genji just due to playstyle differences. Now between LNG and Genji, it's close, but I would say Genji has a more well-rounded lineup overall. They have strength kind of across the roster, where LNG has one really, really good superstar player and then a good top laner in Ale and Tarzan, obviously. Probably the best jungler in the world right now. But I think the bottom half of the map for them will be what holds them back versus Genji that has Ruler, superstar AD carry. So we'll stick with this for a second. There could eventually be some moving, so maybe some more teams joining here as we go along. But we can actually, I want to go to the bottom now because this is where it's going to get hard. But if we go from the bottom up, it might be a bit easier. F tier, this right here is the Oceania team. They're called like, what are they called? Like Trust or something. They're called Peace. They're called Peace is their name. I'm gonna put them low because one, Oceania basically doesn't have a region anymore. They don't have a Riot supported league, so it's all ran locally, and I think that hurt them. And also, Oceania lost a lot of their best players to North America. You look at FBI, you look at Fudge, and they're all over. So I think Oceania, and then even before that, Oceania never was a top tier competitor when it came to wildcard teams. So I would be surprised if they performed that well, even though they did okay at MSI. But I would still be surprised. Another team I put down here is Detonation. Focus Me. It looks like they changed their name maybe, but it's still the same Japanese team that's been representing the region for years now internationally. I think they've been getting better and better, but I'm not sure if this will be the year they break out. They're definitely at the top of the F tier, and they could make it to D tier. They definitely could. I could see them competing with the teams in D tier. Teams like Unicorns of Love, and this is the Turkish team, and this is like the Russian, the CIS team. Both who have been a step above other wildcards historically over the past couple years, so I think it's fair to give them the benefit of the doubt that they will perform slightly better and put them in D tier. I think that is fine. Another team that I would put here is Beyond Gaming. They're the second representative from the Taiwan region, essentially. They beat Paris PSG in a best of five, 3-2, which was the first loss for PSG in a long, long time. They were like 26-0, insanely crazy good record. But then they lost that series. They did come back and win the playoffs overall from the losers bracket. So I still think they're better than Beyond Gaming for sure. But Beyond Gaming, I think, is probably a step above most of the wild cards, but not a big step, which is why they're in the same tier here, just in the front. Where else do we put? I would put Red Canids down here somewhere in F tier. And obviously take all the wildcard rankings with a grain of salt because, as I said, I do not watch wildcard regions consistently except for North America. I would also probably put Infinity maybe here, right behind Dead Nation Focus Me. Um, yeah, I think that makes sense. Then I would probably go Hanwha Life Esports here in B tier. Now this is very close between Hanwha Life and LNG. I could see them maybe moved around. Maybe LNG drops to B tier in front of Hanwha Life, or maybe Hanwha Life jumps up to A tier behind LNG. Yeah, it's pretty close between these two. But I think a roster with Chovy and Deft, even though they have a lot of weaknesses on their roster, Morgan, but if you have a roster with Chovy and Deft, you're always going to be in contention. That back line is just too strong. Chovy's maybe the best mid laner in the world. He's in the conversation. So this roster will always, they at this point when you're reaching B tier, you're reaching the teams that are going to need to get lucky to get out of groups. The S plus, S and A tier teams are all teams that could make it out of a group, even a tough one. Once you get to B tier, these are teams where they need a lucky draw. If Hanwha Life Esports gets a bad draw, they probably don't have the roster to make it out. Say if they got like first seed EDG or something and like Fnatic, say your group is EDG Fnatic, Hanwha Life probably, I don't know if they make it out of that group. I don't see it. Or say if the group is Mad Lions FPX, Hanwha Life probably doesn't make it out. If those groups are even, We'll see how the pool system works and everything. But like groups like that, I don't see Hanwha Life making it out. Now, if they're in a group with like EDG or maybe like Mad Lions LNG, Hanwha Life could contest, but it all comes down to group draw. So basically that's what, once we get to B tier, these are teams that kind of need some luck on their side if they want to make it out. Another team that I'm going to put in B tier is PSG. I think PSG would need a lucky group to make it out, but they have the talent. They have the talent where they could compete with these Worlds teams if they got a lucky draw. And we'll have to see. Maybe I'll do an updated video once the group draw is released, but as it stands, this is where I would probably rank them. And the 4 teams we have left are the 3 NA teams and Rogue. This is real tough for me. Rogue is one of the toughest teams for me to rank because they were the best regular season team in Europe. And it wasn't that close. They had a sizable lead. And then they just choked so completely hard in the playoffs and got destroyed back-to-back by Mad Lions and Fnatic. And now the question is, on a lot of Europeans fans' minds, is Rogue even better than G2? Did Europe send its 3 best teams? If there was another series to decide between Rogue and G2, who wins that series? A lot of people would say G2. So it makes it so hard to rate Rogue. Which Rogue are we going to get? Are we going to get regular season best of 1 Rogue that looked like the best team in Europe? Or are we going to get the best of 5 Rogue that looks like their mental completely boomed and they lost all their confidence? If I were to guess, I think Rogue will not be able to recover mentally from how hard they collapsed in playoffs. And I think that's going to stick in the back of their minds through the World's boot camp. And the minute something starts to go wrong, you start to lose a bunch of scrims, or you have you misread the meta or something. I don't think Rogue has the mental fortitude to withstand that. I think that was shown in their playoff series. They're not a mentally strong team, and I don't think they'll be able to come back from that. So I would put Rogue in C tier. I think I would. I think I put Rogue C tier. Now, the NA teams. This is so tough for NA because all 3 of the NA teams are so close in skill. It's like one of those, like I said, with these S plus teams, any of them who shows up on the day can beat the other. That's how it is with the NA teams, except they're not S plus. I'm thinking between B and C tier for all of them. 3 S plus, baby. You're right. They probably belong up here in some order. Uh, you know, uh, I don't know how Riot's gonna make it happen, but it wouldn't make any sense unless there were 3 NA teams in the finals, is what I'm saying. So my prediction for Worlds is 3 NA teams in the grand finals, and it's just a toss up between who wins. But my problem is 100 Thieves just won NA, but every single time I look at a list like this, I want to say they're the worst out of the three. And people are not going to like that because they just 3-0'd TL, won NA. But I think 100 Thieves is going to have the hardest time adapting to international competition out of the 3 North American teams. I think Cloud9 will adapt the best. TL has the best potential. And 100 Thieves is maybe the most consistent. They have like the highest floor. I think TL has the highest ceiling, 100 Thieves the highest floor, and Cloud9 has the clutch factor, or however you want to say it, whatever cop out. So for me, I do think all the NA teams are probably better than Beyond. I think the no NA team should be D tier. But where do you put them? Does a single NA team make it to B tier, for example? I could see something like this. This doesn't look too insane to me. Put Cloud9 up here. We did see Cloud9 at MSI, and they were competitive. They didn't do amazing, but they were competitive in all of their games. We haven't seen this TL roster perform internationally yet, and 100 Thieves is pretty much brand new. Gotta give C9B same wave. Yeah. Got a viewer in the Twitch chat who says C9 B tier, and I think you do. I think you give C9 benefit of the doubt, because when you look at MSI, Fudge looked like maybe the best top laner in attendance. Perkz has the international experience, and more importantly than that, I think Cloud9 is the opposite of Rogue. How Rogue completely mentally fell apart in their series, and I think that's going to carry over to Worlds. I think Cloud9 is the strongest mental team North America is sending. I think Cloud9 will not mentally break no matter what happens because they have Perkz. I think it's literally a Perkz gap. He is such a good leader, teammate, and he keeps everybody else grounded. And you saw that with G2. G2 did not look like the same team this year without Perkz. And I really do think Perkz is what will make the difference. Also, I think Team Liquid just has better personnel than 100 Thieves to hold up at international competition. I think Someday is going to be exploited. I think Alphari is going to be a point of strength. TL doesn't really have a glaring hole on their roster. The biggest hole you can look at, the biggest weakness is tactical. And then the bot lane inconsistencies that come along with that. Versus, I think 100 Thieves will struggle with the top lane. And I also think 100 Thieves has the worst macro out of any NA team. Imagine how untiltable C9 would be if they still had Sneaky. That's true. If C9 has Sneaky, I don't know, they could be up here, But if there is one player on C9 who would mental boom, it would be Sven also is the thing. Ironically. Like, I was thinking about that when I was thinking about how their players don't tilt. But if there was one who would, it would be Sven. But I'm looking at this list. What might I change? It doesn't feel... It seems so hard to put any NA team above any EU team. Because an NA team hasn't got out of group since 2018. But... you could maybe do this. Say Cloud9 over PSG. Alright. I really have little faith in Rogue. I really do. I really don't think Rogue's gonna be amazing. If they prove me wrong, that's gonna be I'll be really impressed. I'll be like, wow, this team is actually has mental fortitude that I underestimated. But as it stands, I don't think that's likely. So I might put TL above them. Cloud9 and PSG is where I'm thinking about swapping. Okay, let me see if I can find MSI results. Because they played each other at MSI. Yeah, Cloud9 in the Stage 2 Rumble went 3-7 and PSG went 6-4. Cloud9 went 0-2 in their matches versus PSG. They weren't stomps. I remember they were close matches, but Cloud9 took games off of Mad Lions, Pentanet, and RNG. Yeah, I don't think you can put Cloud9 above PSG. Just looking at MSI, I don't think you can do that. So PSG took a game off of RNG in semifinals too. Yeah. I mean, I might do this actually. I might put PSG above Hanwha. Yeah, I think I do that. I put PSG up. I actually think PSG is going to be very good. I really do. I think this might be my list. Let me see. FPX, Damwon, EDG, Mad Lions, RNG, T1, Fnatic over Genji, yeah, and then I put LNG. I think this list looks okay. I think this is reasonable. The teams that I'm looking at that could have very variable performances here, the ones that I'm least confident in that could go up, down, wherever. Hanwha, Rogue, and LNG. All three of these teams could go all over the place. I also think Fnatic has potential to go up or down, but I'm more confident in them. But overall, I think I like this list. I think this is my list. I'm pretty sure this is my list. I feel pretty confident in this. Yep. I think I'm gonna stay. I'm gonna stay with this. All right. This is okay. So the criticism. I actually don't know much about non-Western teams. I did watch the last few Best Fives of EU. I'm surprised you have Fnatic so high. I can get that. I think the finals. Well, part of it is I think the finals between Mad Lions and Fnatic, the games were closer than the series score would indicate, and I rate Mad Lions very highly. So I think Fnatic at least challenging Mad Lions gives them points for me, and then also Fnatic beat basically every team in EU in their lower bracket run. They had to go through. They beat Misfits. They beat G2. They beat Rogue. Basically, everybody you put in front of Fnatic, they beat. And they looked better and better each series, and I think that'll give them confidence. And I think Fnatic is one of those teams where confidence really matters for them. I think if they have a really poor boot camp or something, I could see their performance taking a hit. Same with if their boot camp goes well. So that's kind of why I think Fnatic will be good. But this is my tentative list for my power rankings without knowing group draws or anything. Like I said, after we know group draws, all of this might change. Who the best teams are does not necessarily equate with at Worlds to who will go the farthest in the tournament, because a lot of it is luck based on group draw. So we could see, depending on group draw, a team like Fnatic, Genji, LNG maybe losing a spot to one of the teams in B tier. So just going over what each of these tiers kind of mean in terms of it. S plus is World's final, World's winner contender. The S plus is this team has a legitimate shot of winning Worlds, like 10% or better, which maybe not sound like a lot, but when you count in the fact that there's all these teams, 10% is a big Percent change. Yeah, no, I put Rogue pretty low. You said, but you got the last EU team 2 tiers lower. If this was G2, it would be higher. But Rogue just looked like they collapsed, and I don't think they have the mental fortitude for it. S plus, World's winner, contender. Anything below semis would be a failure for all of these teams. If these teams don't make it to semis, they're going to look at it as failed Worlds. And all of them think or want to win. S is teams that could contend and could make the finals. I'd have a hard time seeing any of these teams winning finals. I think that's unlikely. But all of these teams have a chance to make the finals that I would rate pretty highly, relatively speaking, of course. Like maybe up to 10% chance for some of these teams of making the finals. These are teams. A is teams that have the potential to make semis. I think any of these teams making it further than semis would be very surprising. But if they got a lucky quarterfinal draw, I could see them making top 4. Teams in B tier are teams that could make it into top 8 and make it into quarters if they have a lucky group draw. They would need luck on their side to make it out of groups. But I think that it's possible in the right circumstance, draw, world, timeline. C tier teams, I don't see much chance. C tier teams, it would be a very big surprise to me if they made it out of groups. I would be very surprised if any of these teams made it. They seem like third place teams in groups to me. D tier teams are teams that I would see making it through play-ins and into the bracket stage, or not the bracket stage, but the main group stage. Teams that could come out ahead of other wildcards. And F tier teams are teams that I think are going to have a hard time making it to the main stage. Although I would say keep an eye out for Detonation Focus Me because they did have a strong showing at MSI. And if they've built on that, they could definitely knock off like the Turkey team. I think the Turkey team is definitely in danger. And Detonation Focus Me could make it. But this is my basic list, how I view the teams going into the World Championship. Like I said, we'll look back on this in a couple of months and we'll either look at me as a genius or we'll have some very funny things to laugh about once we see how this actually plays out. So, thank you once again for watching my 2021 World Championship tier list video. If you want more content like this, either a player rating or more in-depth on teams, or regions or anything, let me know in the comments down below. And I think that's it. I'll see you later.